Now to do this, turn off the incoming water supply. I've completely disconnected it, but just make sure it's off. And then we're going to open the flush valve, like so, and that'll relieve the pressure that's in the membrane housing. Now, when you close the flush valve, there's a little bit of residual pressure in the membrane housing on the drain side, and it will bleed out. Now you also need to, if the permeate side is hooked to a tank that has a float valve, not a float switch, which is electrical, a float valve, like this big commercial float valve, or this one, and the tank is full, you need to relieve the pressure in this line as well. And you simply do that by pushing up on a float valve, or if it's one of these style float valves, just push down on it, and that'll let the last little water pressure out. And so this permeate line will then have no pressure in it. Now that the pressure has been relieved in the system, there's no feed water coming in, and the permeate and drain line have both been relieved of pressure, it's safe to open up the pre-filter housings. Really easy to do. Just put the filter wrench on it and just spin it counterclockwise, just like so. Now, let's see. I'll do this one this way. Now, if this was mounted to a wall, it'd be a lot easier, because these do get heavy, these units. But I'm going to spin it off right here and show you. I'm going to wrestle with this EX1000. Okay. So I'm going to place the head unit down, just like that. So to replace the filters, just pull out the sediment, pull out the carbon. Now these are new filters. Yours are not going to look as nice and pristine as this, but you're going to want to pour out the water that's in the sumps. Now the sumps might be dirty, especially if your feed water supply is dirty. So you can put a little dish soap in there, reach in with a sponge, clean it out really good, rinse all the soap out when you're done. Simply put a new carbon in, clean out your carbon sump as well, put a new carbon in that one. Now what I'm going to do is, you can take these O-rings out and you can give them a wipe down as well. You can, a little towel, and just wipe them down. They do get dirty. You can put them back in their seat. I'm going to take a little bit of this silicone grease. This is food grade stuff. This is how we assemble them. This stuff's available on the website. You can use vegetable oil if you don't have this laying around. And you want to lubricate these O-rings fairly decently. And I'm just going to get some silicone grease on these O-rings. And that's because when you try to take these filters off in the future, if you don't use some kind of lubricant there, it could feel almost welded together from all the minerals in the scale that's in the feed water supply. I also like to put a little bit on the carbon filter gasket up top, this little gasket right here. And then we're simply going to thread them back on. Like so. Then I'm going to take this filter housing wrench and turn them clockwise and give them a good tight turn. These are not like the smaller water filters that need to be only hand tight. You're going to need the filter wrench for these. Don't over torque them though. You'll feel the O-ring start to compress. You can give them another 3/4 of an inch turn and you're good to go. Now, before you run this unit, we changed this unit with a KDF carbon. So there's a sticker on here that reminds you to flush the KDF carbon. There's a step earlier in this video series that talks about flushing it. You're going to have to disconnect this tube from the membrane input and run this into the drain or a bucket and flush this carbon for about 20 gallons before you use it. You want to get all the black carbon dust out. And then on initial startup, just make sure you start up the water pressure slowly. Don't hammer the water pressure. Close your flush valve, hook up your feed water supply, you're ready to go. So there's a lot of choices of pre-filter for an EX1000. In the sediment department, you can get a spun polypropylene sediment with a nice big thick filter core here in different micron ratings of 1 micron, 5, 10. You can also get a pleated, which is very high flow, low pressure drop. And these come in 0.35 micron, which is pretty incredible, and a 5 and a 10. And in the carbon department, you can get a standard Eco Green carbon block, a white block we call them. These are both coconut shell carbon. They perform exactly the same. The green one's just made with a more environmentally friendly process, less greenhouse gas emissions. And then the premium carbon, which is the KDF 85 catalytic carbon, which is what we put in here, which is essential for chloramine reduction. If you're on a water supply with chloramine, this is the one to get. If you're on a well water, this is the one to get. So there's more about that in the carbon filter section of this video library that you can learn more about. But I just wanted to show you there's a bunch of options for pre-filters on this, and you can tune this pre-filter section to meet your water needs.